First of all, I want to welcome you. My name is Johanne Woodcock. I'm the director of the AAS Interior Design Program. I work with Nadia Elrokhsy, who's the associate director of the AAS program. She hopefully will be with us shortly. I'm going to talk for a few minutes, and then I'm going to pass the mic to both Caroline Meersseman, who you were introduced in the open session, then with Sofia, Burlo, and Victoria Herbert. Sofia recently graduated, and Victoria is a current student. So I couldn't be more excited about this program, which I've directed for many years. I'll just say over 10 years. Just to and what's so exciting about it is that the transformation people make. They enter with such a wide range of expertise, as you heard in the initial presentation, and what you'll find is that the rigor of the program, we treat you as designers from day one. But we also treat you as someone who has no background, no background in art and design. And what's exciting is that years ago we used to ask for a portfolio, and we stopped doing that because we recognized that people who may not have had art and design were excelling in both school and the industry. We had a design exchange a number of years ago where one of the alumni came back to speak and answer questions, and it was so lovely to hear her then go on to say, I wasn't the star student. I was somebody who really pushed myself to really pursue what design is. And it took a few years to percolate, similar to what Jason said. But it was the fact that her faculty member recognized the quality of her design thinking that was, she got a recommendation which led to working at Studio Sofia and then developing an excellent, a fantastic career in interiors. I have several tabs here open of different alumni. What I'll do is I just wanted to sort of make these, tell you sort of this general global idea. Nadia Elrokhsy has just entered the room. She's the associate director.
I'm sure I just went to 2 other buildings.
Right. But I think you brought some extra people. This is on live, so I don't know if you want to make yourself to the front of the room. But as I mentioned before, her expertise is in sustainability, so I would like her to have an opportunity to speak at some time, at one point.
Sustainably.
Well, you'll be very excited because
comfort is not in this plan right now.
Well, I'd say 3/4 of these people walked up by choice. Right? So it's already a good start. But so after that, I'll have everyone speak, and then we'll open it up to questions and answers, because I think then we'll really get to the heart of what you want to know. Of course, at noon, I'll be taking people over to where we have most of our classrooms. So just so that we're all, all of us, I'm going to pass the mic, fairly right now.
So welcome. So you were in the new building. There's lots of wonderful strategies on environmental design that we could expand on, and we do in environmental design, which is the course I developed and I teach. My area is in sustainability at large, but I am an architect by training, but by practice I have always been a designer of interiors. So I have my own firm. I do everything from the piping on pillows to jabot curtains, but it's always about how we experience the interiors. So in speaking about sustainability in the built environment, I'm very interested in our field understanding how we can influence behaviors and the change of behaviors, which is really at the heart I think of our making changes in the future that bring a stronger resilience, more happiness, healthy well-being in our lives. And that is the role that interior designers can play. We kind of craft our experiences of the interiors. We can't design for different experiences, but we can design the conditions that help people have different experiences about use, consumption of resources, of course. That's what we are finding ourselves talking about and very interested in interior design. So I think it's an incredibly important time for the field to be coming to the field of interior designs, because we will be the ones who can shape these experiences across the sectors, retail sectors. What does it mean to be in retail or retailing in the future? There's a lot of changes there, and we can influence how those conditions occur. How are there changes in hospitality or the way we live? The workplace. What does the workplace mean in the 21st century? These are the problems that you tackle in this field, and there's a lot of joy to be found in it. So I'll be happy when you have questions to take that further.
Maybe we'll pass
There's
it
a
to
line on my face, thank you very much.
Should we have maybe Victoria speak for, do you mind? I mean, this is totally, and then we'll move to Sofia and Caroline, and then we'll, start the Q&A. Just a few words, because here's Victoria's taking Studio 3 right now. And
so I'm in my final semester of the AAS program, and I've been here a whole year now. It's the best but also hardest thing I've ever done. It's a fully immersive learning experience. I did come from a little bit of kind of art design background. I was a fashion writer, and I previously had an art foundation for a year, and I did a fashion communication degree. So I had some knowledge of kind of Photoshop and layout programs, but I'd never designed a space. I was very two-dimensional. But it was interesting what Johanne was saying about students that come with no experience at all and how they really, really excel. And I've seen that with my peers, who've come from, finance backgrounds or something entirely different before. And a year in, they're incredibly skilled and are really producing fantastic work. It's the best thing I've ever done. I sold my flat in London to do this, and I moved, so it's a big deal. And I was, I've always been fully committed to it. But there's a lot of work, but you'll love it. You will do it every weekend, every waking moment. But it's completely worth it.
It's because to change. I think that what's really to the credit of the students is to change careers. Our mission is to give you the core competencies, what you need to know in order to enter the workplace, in order to continue learning in the workplace. And I think that's what's, I just applaud the students who are able to take on so many new concepts, new ways of working, and make that, transition. It's really, to your credit that you're.
I've been very happy with the tuition, actually. You are, you're prepped to do things, so you're very green to begin with, but you're given the right tools, and we do precedent studies before we start a big project, and we're shown how to do it, so it's not, you're completely in the dark. But you kind of also learn by osmosis as well. You just start doing it.
Okay. So, maybe I'm just going to end with you, Fran. You'll find out why. Sofia Burlo graduated just last year in was it May 2015?
Yes. I did have a background in design before. I graduated in architecture in Argentina, and I was very excited to find the program here because, as Johanna said, and as she also said, that it's kind of like people with background in design and people without background in design kind of get to the same level, even since the first year of the career, because it's very skill oriented. So even in the first year, you will learn all the tools like AutoCAD, Photoshop, 2D, every other 2D like drawing, and 3D programs like SketchUp and any rendering. So by the second year, I would say that everybody was on the same level, and it was really interesting to see people that have maybe like a background in business, just always having that interest in design and just being able to finally like explore their interests and just having a lot of things to say and really like a position in design. And it was very interesting. Yes, the most difficult thing that I did, but also the most like exciting and yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, the great thing about interior design is we love what we do. We, you know, if you talk to an interior designer, I have a hard time getting people to teach, and I'm very fortunate that Caroline is carving out a little time because they love what they do and they don't have time because, you know, they're already, you know, have very full lives. So, you know, I just want to give Caroline a few minutes to say some more, and then I'll
Yeah, no, I just wanted to build off of what has been said before. I think that one of the great things about the program is really the amount of knowledge that you gain in such a small amount of time. Roughly 2 years is the time it takes to do the program full-time mostly. A lot of the students do work full-time and therefore take a little bit longer to finish the program, which just makes it, you know, tougher and harder because you are working only nights and weekends. But it just gives you a complete array of skills that you will need in the industry, from like a more theoretical approach on how to like conceptualize built environment, all the way down to like the tools and the computer programming and like really the skills. And what I think that the AAS program at Parsons does probably more than other schools is like keeping always very, very current on what the necessary skills and tools are in the industry in the years to come. Like I've noticed that I graduated in 2007, and from then to now, a lot of the courses have actually changed in terms of like what are the 3D programs that are currently used in industry, and that's what's being taught here. Or actually the programs that will be used. I see now there's a shift towards Revit happening, and Parsons already picked it up. Very, very intensive program, which is great because, you know, like if you get used to...
You really get your money's worth here.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, just think of you're saving $100,000.
No, but it's true. Like it is absolutely worth it, and you get a complete personalized attention from the faculty and also from you know, the whole support group at Parsons. And so it's really about developing you as a designer. And working on your own projects. So, like for instance, what was I going to say? Yeah, and you also learn to work very, very hard and to never give up on your project. It can always be better. It's never good enough. Good enough is not good enough. And so you work at it and you work at it and you learn very, very fast because of that, and also gives you good practice standards, because once you've been in school and worked 70 hours a week, like that's good training for the 80 hours a week you'll be working when you're actually working.
Which is what you do.
Which
for a
is
while
what you
until
love.
You open up your own practice.
Yes.
Which is when you decide.
No, and nobody's forcing you to work 80 hours a week. That's the thing. Like it's what you want to do because you want your project to always be better and better and better. And
I think it's that's what's great about a career in design is that, you know, it's your work, you're developing your vision, and so, you know, that is the way that you want to spend your time.
Yes.
But
And then that's what you do in your free time, or you come back to Parsons and teach a little bit, or or you work on your own projects. But yes, it's immersive because you will want it to be immersive.
And I'm not sure if, I'm sure you said Caroline was taught philosophy and film before. And that's why I wanted her to go last, because I think this is it's a good representation of how diverse the community is. And this is, you know, she's sort of living proof why, you know, the portfolio requirement no longer became significant. You know, somebody who was able to, you know, really take advantage of what she was being taught. Jabu Puschelberg is an exceptional firm in that where it is placed in the interior design profession. And when they're looking for people, they're really looking for creative thinkers. And it was, and I think it's a wonderful studio to be in because they really value what their young designers bring, and the fact that she's now one of 4 senior designers in this very prestigious firm after having graduated in 2007 and now is a faculty member who is, people fight to get into her class, is really, sort of just shows, is a good illustration, and I'm very thankful for you to come. So, with that, we organize our classes to try and, as Caroline mentioned, and Victoria and Sofia, to really look at what's changing in the field. Our other studios in Studio 3 have looked at strategic thinking and branding. As Nadia mentioned, sort of sustainable systems, which is the Studio 3 that Victoria is now in, where we've gone to both looking at hospitality and retail in very, in sort of current, in future thinking, and now we're looking at the very sort of in detail. We're taking on a program for an experience store. Hopefully this will be supported. All of you are very lucky because in the fall, the brand new Making Center is going to open up, which is a facility that will support all New School and Parsons students to help them do some investigations in whether it's woodworking or 3D modeling. I mean, already we have these opportunities with the laser cutter and lots of tools and machinery, but what we want is you to also have your design appreciate sort of what physical materials bring to that design development, and that's another area that one of the current Studio 3 programs or classes is pursuing. So I just want to make sure I'm on schedule. I am on schedule. I wanted to, I can go over many things. I just want to get a general feel for where, what people would like to hear about. Curriculum, I can do alumni, the logistics you have sort of more or less heard. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you some resources on the website so that you can go to, at home, see, just check out the program. As you've probably seen, the Parsons website. You've probably gone and seen our annual publication, which highlights the every year highlights projects that have been completed in the AS program. You can look on these online, and what it will show you is projects that have been done in the program and where the students were before they got here. So it's a very good way to get a sense of what you might be thinking about. Last year we were looking into specifically how local conditions can impact interior design. This came out of a lecture series that we have at Parsons called Inside Histories. It's a series that has been put together by the Art and Design History Department and the Decorative Arts program up at Cooper Hewitt, and our historian theorist Johanne Woodcock, where they bring in people from many different areas to talk about interiors. One of those was a Belgian historian who had identified how architecture was used in order to regenerate an attractive sort of tourist destination site. I mean, Bilbao being the example. And she kept, because she was talking about interiors and kept saying, but then we just get the white box interiors. Like, how do you decide, how do you make an interior that is, that sort of has a unique personality to it and starts to bring that richness back. And so we use that as a sort of prompt in the Studio 2 program. In the curriculum, there are 3 studios, 3 primary design studios. The first one, when you're learning AutoCAD and hand drafting, is retail and residential. You do 2 projects. They're usually two floors. That's so that you think about the full, floor to ceiling conditions. Do you want a low ceiling? Do you want a high ceiling? The stairway, things that as an interior designer, whether or not you're supported by a licensed architect, or if you want to be aware of when you're designing space. So you have these 2 projects which really help you sort of get started. It really jumpstarts you because you're thinking of everything from the concept development. How do you organize an idea into an idea that's going to help you make decisions as you design the space. And you take that all the way through to choosing materials, color palette, lighting, and then going on quickly to a second project. Helps you sort of appreciate what you've already learned. From there you go to Studio 2, which is organized so that you have a new tool, and that is the digital modeling. With computer rendering has informed a lot of contemporary design. It's brought to use, whether it's through laser cutting and 3D modeling, how we have a much broader palette of forms and surfaces that we can work with in designing interiors. So Studio 2 follows a civic project. That's where we've done things like our partnership with Memorial Sloan Kettering, when AAS students work closely with the staff there to conceive of new remote chemotherapy clinics, because they didn't want to have everybody have to come into Midtown Manhattan. And that's one example of what a Studio 2 project was. We've done, I'll go into that more later. And so that's what, it's that combination of both learning and, a new method of design, and also a different area, a different client base. In Studio 3, you're thinking about, or it's focused around hospitality and retail, where you're, again, looking at future needs or future drivers in this industry, and working with more complex programs, or in greater detail with, actually more closely working with materials. So that's the core of the studio, and you'll see that in this workbook, which we publish annually, the work 9, which is the one that's being worked on right now, is going online as just both in recognition of what, for the environment, and just seeing that is, and it's going online. Anyway, if you look at these books, you'll notice that each of the student designers their background is listed, and we do that because I think it's valuable to see, what dramatic changes. This project right here, which was for a women's center in Guatemala, won an International Interior Design Award. Again, the fact that this is a student who, had only had one previous semester of design is really exceptional and exciting.
And one of our students was one of the top finalists in Workplace of the Future competition, which is Metropolis Magazine and Staples project. And that came out of actually my environmental design class. So there's lots of opportunities for, in a short period of time, connecting with competitions, connecting with external partners that we sort of focus and collaborate with, and then giving you a chance, to have a leg up for any potential jobs that you might want to acquire. When compared with a 4-year degree, student who's younger, there's a significant benefit to you, the way you will present your work and yourselves as being very well-rounded, broad as it's been mentioned before. Broad background, that's an advantage, and we want that to be what you take out and celebrate.
Dawn Curry is going to be the featured alum. Each book has a featured alum and a featured faculty member. So this gives you an idea of, just the breadth of expertise of the faculty. And I should, talk about the faculty because I think it's, they're as exceptional as you will become. It's because we work with industry professionals. You're always getting new voices that are very current in the industry. So you're able to appreciate that the experience you have will give you a very solid foundation, not just in the fundamental skills, but really current design process. So we also have a website, sce.parsons.edu, which has a number of the workbooks posted, as well as the Parsons website. I have, here. I was just going to show the alumni here, but I think I lost that. So anyway, if you have any questions about knowing more about the program or its alumni or faculty, this book lists both the faculty and gives you samples of that. I want to address that, the fact, like Sofia being in architecture, and that you have somebody who's got some background and you might be somebody with no background. And first of all, and I think you'll agree, is like architecture spends so much time with the outside of the building and the siding. It's actually remarkable how little is spent on the inside. And that's where whether or not our faculty are architects or interiors, they're all challenged to give you the best education in interior design, which it's that significance of how that space is finished that is really the quality of that space. And I feel like things are changing, and that people are recognizing that what we do is really has so much significance and importance. That bringing together these different communities is like the perfect symbiotic relationship, because whether or not when you're finished you decide to work for an interior designer or work for an interiors department in an architecture firm or in a larger interiors firm or your own firm, your expertise is very much sought after and appreciated, and you will be able to you'll be able to follow your preferences within the field as you work. I think that's like you can decide 3 years out. I met at one of our alumni events, Lanny she wants to work in furniture. So because she has these fundamental skills, she's developing a product line. We have students who want to go into set design. We have people who want to go into styling. We have people who have a whole range of ideas. And in interior design, there are a number of very positive things about the profession, in that it allows you to grow. It allows you to grow, and it also respects your past. Our clients typically have the resources to invest in their interiors, and they respect working with a designer that really can meet them in terms of just the breadth of knowledge that they want you to bring to that design. And so as a choice of changing careers, I'll say that while the average age of the AAS student is probably around 27, we might, that there's no limit, I think, almost. But I don't want to guess the oldest student who's been here, but that people can enter this industry in many different places and in many different ways. So Let me see.
So 3 of my peers are over 50, so.
Yes, see? So
And they're
maybe-
doing really well.
Yeah, well, that's what's so exciting is that you have no idea who's going to be the success. So do you have particular questions? And before I can talk about this program. I could go on and on and on. So
I wanted to know, where do most people go after the program? Do they go into residential? Do they go into working with an architect? Do they open up their own firm? Where?
They go into the industry, and that is the full gamut. We have, I'd say 9. I mean, I don't know anybody who's done this program who hasn't then gone into interior design, quite frankly. And I've
Right,
been
but
running.
what like where?
Where? Let's see, places that are very popular for our graduates to go: Yabu Pushelberg, Studio Sofia, Tahani, Rockwell. The names go on and on. So Parts and Labor, Avrico, iCrave. Those are the sort of top interior design firms. We also have like the interiors department at Robert Stern, SOM. They're also those students who go to work in firms, Vignoli.
And they start their own firms.
They start their own firms.
There isn't like a predominance in one particular thing.
Right.
Yeah, some schools might have that where there's more graduates who are going into their own residential interiors.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
And even though, even if you know now that you want to go into residential, they go to Victoria Hagen, they're T. Keller Donovan, there are many residential firms that they go to. But you can decide along the way, and when you become a designer, I've had many designers come back and say, I started out, I had focused so much in residential, and now I want to take on more. I want to take on different programs, and that's why in the curriculum we give you a range of experiences just to get your feet wet in terms of what it means to work with different programs. And it's often, I'd say 95% of the profession, you graduate, you work for 5 years for somebody else, and then you open up your own practice. Typically, you're going to start in residential. So that's why, the firms I list, a lot of students decide that they're going to work on, for another firm in a context that's larger than residential, because they know that they're going to end up. That's where they want to end up. And Dawn Curry was a good example of that. I'll pull up another one.
There's another question about
And like Nadia said, we have students like Janine McMurray, who, while she was in the program, she was in school when Caroline was here. She had started her own practice. Her firm is Area Interiors. She was on the cover of Domino magazine like 3 years after she got out for her residential interiors, listed as one of the top 10 designers. We have Natalie, who's been in the top 10 in Nashville. We have, all over the place of residential interiors.
So you just touched a little bit on my question. It's two-part.
Sure.
One is, how long has the year-long program been going?
Been
for
going?
interior design? Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll admit it. I got here in '96, which is when was the first year. AAS has gone on longer than that. Sheila Bridges, who was the interior designer for Bill Clinton when he was in the White House, graduated from the AAS interior design program. And that was before '96, right?
Okay,
But-
I thought it was a new.
Yeah, no, this is not. It's tried and true.
And then the second part is, which you did touch upon, but I'm just curious, what are some of the logical next steps, regarding perhaps do people go on in education to get a larger degree, and
I'd say
but most people go to work for someone for 5 years and.
Again, I would say like 95% of the population has a previous degree when they arrive.
In interiors?
No, outside of.
Okay.
No, they have it in law. They have it in, they were a babysitter and a dancer. They were in English literature. They were in art history.
But then specifically in the interior design world, what would the logical next steps in education? Do they go on to
Most of them go directly into the profession.
Yes.
It's, maybe once a year I might get one or two people who decides, that's for the person typically who said, you know what, I love interiors, but I want to be an architect. I maybe get 2 of those a year, or one.
Yeah, and we do have an MFA.
Yeah,
in
in interior design, which is that's a more new, right.
That's a new program, but it's a program where you concentrate on expanding the field of interior design. But most of the students are actually going into profession. That's why they've come.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the application process. So, for the creative project, can you
Glad
touch
you
a
brought
little
this
bit
up.
upon that, and then also how should it be submitted and kind of the deadlines associated?
Right.
with it?
I'm glad you brought it up because I know they've tried to communicate this. The project that they ask you to do is they're interested in what your creative thinking is. No one is expected to know what you're coming here to learn. So I just want to reassure everybody. You don't have to, take a CE class to do the admissions thing. And then, so that means you answer that problem. It used to be to design an advertising office right. You do it in the way that you feel most comfortable. You could be collaging images, you could be, sketching, think creatively. That's what they're interested in. And in terms of the process, I'm going to direct you back to admissions because I don't want to give you last month's factor.
I could actually jump in.
Oh, cool.
I'm from
Excellent. I'm sorry.
my name is Flynn. I'm from the admission office, so I can actually tell you it's submitted very easily online with your new school application. You just upload it. It's very, very simple. And from an admission standpoint, just to speak to what Joanne said, it's, again, just really about where your skills are now, where your ideas are, and you can use any medium that you're comfortable with.
And for that merit-based scholarship, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I can talk a little about it. Merit scholarships are considered as part of the admissions process, and we look at your grades, your creative assignment a little bit, but the quality of your writing as well, your motivation for coming, but we consider all students, domestic and international.
But I would ask, just in all fairness, I think that, the advantage of this degree, whether you go part-time or full-time, is that it allows you to enter the profession if you have an undergraduate degree, that's 3 semesters. So I'm not, maybe it's old information, but I would ask how much are those merited scholarships, because I think the real savings,
the transfer credits.
is the fact that you'll be in the industry working, so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But out in the hall.
Yeah, sorry, I came a little late, so I may have missed this, but kind of piggybacking on what you had said. So I'm sure most of us have a bachelor undergrad, but so what's the difference between getting a master's and this program? How does it look to firms? Is it better to get a master's, or is it, how much better is it on our resume?
When in the design industries, it all comes down to your portfolio, and ultimately, Parsons, the name of Parsons on your CV is going to, that's what will help you get the get the interview. And then it's about your portfolio. Whether or not you're a bachelor's or master's or AAS, the AAS community and network and alumni has an incredible reputation and network. There are top professionals in the industry, and they came from the AAS program. So and even sort of stretching globally at this point. So it's an unusual degree at Parsons. It is one that you start out saying, well, it's not a typical AAS, but it's also 20 years in its current iteration. And that's after. It's at least 40 years. It's got a healthy network out there. People know about Parsons AAS.
Can I just add?
Yeah.
I think it's a very good question, and so just I would encourage you maybe to look at both just so you could see what's resonating with you.
Right.
They are very different programs. You know, this is very much geared to entering into the profession, whereas the MFA is wanting to really, as I mentioned, kind of look at how is the profession, how can we change, how can we push the boundaries of what the profession is offering, what it's looking at. Not to say that that doesn't happen in AAS, because it is. We look at emerging development and trends. That's part of the, you know, this notion of looking at branding as well. So, but it's 2-year degree, and it's taking that to another level. And so I really encourage you to kind of just get connected with what might be your personal interests, like what are the projected goals that you have.
I have to, just before I take this question, Alejandro graduated in 2000. He did have an architecture background. He, 2 years ago, won the James Beard Award for large restaurants. This is an incredibly prestigious award. So, your question?
My question is more about like scheduling. Like the classes are in evening, daytime, weekend. What does that look like for like a full-time student?
We have students, we have classes that run, there's a 3-hour bell schedule, so we have classes that start at 9 a.m. to noon, essentially 12 to 3. There's one from 4 to 6:30, and the last class runs from 7 to 9:40. We try to run most of the required classes at night, at least. I think the Studio 2 may only run, once a year at night, but if you are going at night, you have to be a little bit flexible because there are fewer nights in the week. So aside from having to work with that constraint, we have classes that Monday through Friday at all those different times.
And some online.
And yeah, we in the summer we have a 5-week summer schedule from May 23rd to the end of June. It's really for upper level students. It's not for entering students. And in addition, there's an online history class that runs for 2 months in June and July. We also have during the regular semesters an online environmental design class is one of the required classes, and an online professional practice class. So
there's another question.
yeah. What's that? Go ahead.
I want to know about the curriculum. Like, is it 2 years, 3 semesters in 2 years, or can you complete it in 12 months?
It depends how many credits you transfer in. It's a 65 credit degree. So even if you are what's called fast tracked, you're completing those 65 credits. And how that works is that if you have a bachelor's from another program, you're transferring in the 21 required liberal studies credits. That brings you down to 44 credits that are required. If you've had previous art and design training, that you can transfer up to 10 of those credits. That if you have that would bring you down to having to do 34 credits in order to complete the degree. For full-time tuition, you pay the same amount for 12 to 19 credits. So there is and you can see on the website, there is a fast-tracked option if you come in with 31 credits to do it in 2 semesters. If I hear from anything from faculty, or if you have, to do 4 additional credits, I recommend that you take that extra semester, even if you go part-time to finish to do the studios, each in their own semester. We've had many students. I had somebody who went directly from the program into Rockwell, into their Red group, where they were really thinking about forward-thinking ideas for the industry. And she did, I think she was a public teacher, a public school teacher, and she just scheduled all her classes after 3 o'clock. She finished in 2 semesters and she went right into the industry. But that's not easy. And it's even though there are lots of people who, for whatever reason, you have to do it, they do it. And I always tell them, it's like, well, if you're you have a firm, you have 2 great jobs come in, you're going to take it. You're going to just make it work, and you're going to make those decisions to make it work. but it's easier if you then at least maybe stretch it out to the summer semester, so you don't have to take them. And I'm telling you all of these options just so that, you know, I know everybody, you're looking at sort of tuitions and what are the costs. You know, I just want you to know that I don't want to like tell you later, like, well, if you can stretch it out. But yes, you can. That's how you can do the two. I want to get some on this side of the room too.
You touched on it a little bit, but so I currently work in PR in this industry, and I'm looking to make the switch, and so I'll likely have to keep working. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what that looks like for somebody that works full time?
Yes. You know, I would recommend, you know, the first class you take is drawing interiors, and if you have no background, you have to learn how to represent a three-dimensional space two-dimensionally. So you're introduced to what is plan, elevation, and section. How do you draw that by hand? How do you draw that in AutoCAD? That meets twice a week. So that's going to be your first class, and it's going to meet Monday and Wednesday. So somebody who's working, you don't want to take a class on Tuesday, because for every 3-hour class, you can expect 4 to 6 hours of homework. It's, you know, in order to change careers in a year and a half, that's what brings the intensity of the program. It's like, yes, you have a lot to learn, but you will. And that's what's so great about the fact that this is a program that's had lots of success for decades. You can do it. But if, you know, I always want people to, you know, find that balance. So I would recommend that if you want it, like for part-time financial aid, you have to have at least 6 credits. So I would recommend, well, take Drawing Interiors 1, 2D, which is what I just described, and then on Thursday night take the 3D portion of that, which is when you'll learn Photoshop and SketchUp, V-Ray SketchUp, of the 3D modeling program. And that way you have the weekend to do your homework, you have Tuesday night to do the homework you'll get from Monday to Wednesday. You'll be here from 7 to 9:40 in class, and hopefully you'll be working, you know, in the classroom, I hope, on the weekends, because you know, what's really incredible is as you take electives where you will meet upper level students, or when you're working in the classrooms, you know, that's part of the richness of this program, because it's a remarkable student body, and next.
So you mentioned Photoshop as being part of it. I know there's a lot of computer programs that you have that we don't have the subscription for. So if we have homework or things to work on, we can come in on the weekend and use the facility and work on it here?
Enrolled students will get a license to use Photoshop, Adobe Suite, and Creative Cloud, right. So while you're here, you have that access. Yeah. And so all the programs, I mean, I encourage people to, you know, don't buy anything until you get here and you've talked to the students in the year ahead of you, because they have the no matter how much I can do research and try to get that piece of paper out with what's the current best practices, it's going to be that, you know, somebody like Victoria who's going to tell you the here and now. All the programs, we have labs, open labs. The new building, there are lots and lots of computer labs with these programs on them. So, you know, you have time to make an informed decision about what you need to buy or what you don't need to buy. Any next question? Yeah.
I'm probably going to end up leaving my current job. I work in a different field because, you know, I just really want to fully immerse myself in the program. I want to make sure I have time. I'd like to do an internship. So I guess I'd just like to hear some personal stories from some of you who did something similar about how you made that work for yourself. And Carolyn mentioned before coming out at 33, being an intern, what that was like for you.
So yes, you know you're starting over in a way, but of course you do have a different level of maturity than somebody who's, you know, getting into a company at 22, and that is usually very much recognized by the people you will be working with. And so it's just about like having the determination and putting in the work and bringing in what your previous work experience was, and working hard and moving faster. So what I mean is, like, yes, you're starting over, but you're starting with a very different mindset than somebody who is starting at 22 straight out of school. And that's appreciated.
More questions?
Actually, I just hired a girl who was a student here, and she had 10 years of finance. So she worked at Lehman Brothers and then moved to Hong Kong during the recession.
She's amazing.
Yeah, Catherine, she's amazing.
She won. Oh yeah, she won the design, the D&D building. Their design stars. She won the portfolio competition.
And she was, as one of my students, like you could tell she was hardworking, focused from day one, like really always like trying to do more than what was required. And she's doing the exact same thing now at work. And yes, she's starting as an intern, so I'm sure, her first salary may be lower for sure than what she was making at Lehman Brothers. but you're on a different curve because you've already worked. You know how to deal with an industry, how to talk with people, how to present a project. And so I'm sure that will change very, very fast for her, probably faster than somebody who's, coming straight out of their first school experience and really getting their feet wet and learning little by little. So it's a fast track, career-wise.
What is that curve like that, the pay curve with intern to winning being on the cover of Domino? I guess there's no in between, or
Right. It's interesting because there isn't one answer. It has to do with, like, Scott Sanders had a book published out to him. He was he got his start doing a website with his redesigned apartment, right? And you just list residence instead of that it was his residence, and shortly after had a huge career and lots of publicity. And Janine, I think that's actually why the AAS students do so well, because a design profession involves many different expertise. Part of that, why we do it is the passion for design, but it sure helps if you have a business savviness and you have, the ability to work in other areas. So it's hard to say.
I was just interested to know kind of your perspective on the value in the industry right now in having that national certification, becoming licensed.
Right.
And because doing this program, you wouldn't have that ability. Does that put you
I'm
in
really glad you brought that up. I have an NCIDQ certification, and I'm a licensed interior designer. And I'm definitely on board for the industry's been working for 20 years trying to get licensure. And I used to wonder, it's the architects, right? It's territory. And then somebody told me, no, it's the kitchen and bath people who don't want us to have, So it's an ongoing struggle. The good news, we've had people from NCIDQ come. With this change now from requiring 60 credits instead of 40, which is what up until just recently was the case, what it means to you is it means you can either take more credits while you're here and get, you'll graduate with, even if you transferred in 10 credits, you'll graduate with a degree that has 44 interior design credits. So to get an additional 16 credits, you can take a continuing education class 2 years after graduation, 3 years. You have to do a certain amount of professional work before you're allowed to take part 2 of the exam. They've just changed it so you can take part 1. Part 1 is sort of fill in the bubble for, it'll ask you everything from, what's the yardage on drapes to what's the ASTM, number for flame retardant. It's information that you pick up and it's easier to pass if you've been working for a number of years. Or you can get the George Ballard book and just cram for 6 months and take that right after you graduate. When the NCIDQ was gave or when you could fulfill the accreditation with 40 credits, when they changed it, I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going. This.
Well, you were going. You
Oh
were
yes,
talking about part
yes.
2. You were about
Right. So part 2. Right. Thank you. That. So in order to take part 2, you have to have. It used to be that you had to have 7 years of professional work before you could take part 2, and given this change to having to have 60 credits, you only have to have 3,500 hours of professional work. So, what used to be a 4-year length of time has now been cut in half. And any time, before you actually apply to take the exam, you can take continuing education classes and, fulfill those additional 16 credits if you choose to do. And I think that that's also an advantage of AAS, because it gets you into the industry. More and more we have, I know very top level firms that are going to get their NCIDQ and their license. But, it's slow going. I mean, if you look at New York State Education Board, I think there might be certainly like around 500 licensed interior designers. I mean, we're still at the beginning of getting that acknowledgement.
I was going to say, in our company, out of 120 licensed interior designers, 0.
Right.
Our studio director is now going through the process of taking the exam. And again, like you usually decide to do it because it is moving towards that. It's not going to happen overnight, so you'll have the time, and so you'll do it after you've been in the industry for a while.
Yeah.
But it's not necessary, like
not to work in the industry.
As far as taking on large scale projects and that kind of thing, you wouldn't be at a disadvantage.
The New York State hasn't even accepted the fact that you can only, as an interior designer, sign off on a job. We're still at the very beginning of trying to get that status. I mean, as somebody who's licensed in another field, why one wants to be liable for a project, I really don't know. But in respect for the industry, I mean, that's really what it's all about, is to sort of change perceptions and to recognize that we are responsible and have the qualifications in order to
health, safety, and
health, yeah, exactly.
That's basically what it's addressing, right at the heart of things.
Right.
I just had a quick question on the admission rate. Like, how many people are accepted each year or each semester?
Yeah, so I can answer that.
Sure.
We actually have a fairly high acceptance rate for this program. That's partly due to the rigorous pre-screening we have. As you guys know from Phil's presentation, you have to be at least 20 and you have to be at least 2 years out of high school to even apply. Our acceptance rate is approximately 70%, I believe. Yeah, it varies year to year, and it's different for each program a little bit.
And it's sort of been a self-selecting group. I mean, because of the intensity and the rigor of the program. I mean, when this program started, we also had some 18-year-olds, and they couldn't keep up. It's like that. You'd have a full conversation with the faculty, a debate in the class, and you're 18 years old. You're not really at that. You're not at that level
Maturity,
to be able to.
Experience, all of that comes into the discussions in the classroom, and it was just so obvious in those early days. It was so obvious in those early days that those students felt very disconnected, didn't have enough life experience to really talk about experience in many ways, and so didn't feel they could contribute. So it's definitely, as Johanna said, in many ways self-selecting.
Oh, I want to go back to the side of the room. Okay.
Just for people working full time, and if you're recommending one or two classes a week, one or class. Well,
yeah, in that case, one
me.
of the classes met twice a week, and so that's why you could take 2 classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to finish the degree doing that?
It's like, you can do the math in terms of if you have 44 credits to do, if you do 6 credits a semester,
okay, got it.
you have
okay.
7 semesters.
Yeah,
Right.
Got it, thanks.
Or plus.
Right.
I want you to think about my math. Right.
Can I go back to tuition?
Sure.
Tuition is per year, but when you do 18 months, do you pay a year and a half for tuition?
Billing is per semester.
Per semester.
Per semester, and you can decide whether you go full-time or part-time, but you pay per semester.
If you're enrolled part-time,
If
you actually pay per credit rather than the flat rate of tuition that was mentioned earlier. So if you go online, you can actually see what the tuition rate is per credit. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's something around $1,300, $1,400 per credit. So you can kind of estimate how much you'd be paying in a term for your classes if you're enrolled with under 12 credits. It's part-time.
It's almost, I guess it's noon, so we're supposed to be wrapping up right now. I will be, so you're free to go. I'm always happy to answer questions. First go to admissions because they're the ones who have the most up-to-date information about, I think, what many of your questions might be right now. For those who are interested, we're going to walk over to 60 16th Street and I'll show you the 2 classrooms. But thank you all for coming. I'm very happy to